What's up, everybody? My name's Brendan Graber, and I'm joined by the wonderful Jared Petty,
Hi.
and we are playing The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess.
Which is really a privilege,
Yes.
more than it is anything else, the opportunity to play
So,
it.
if you're just joining us, this is part of our celebration for Nintendo's 125th anniversary. We're playing 125 really awesome Nintendo games. And I think this is no exception.
Beyond no exception, I think this is one of my very favorites. Twilight Princess is often compared to Ocarina of Time, and I think that's a fair comparison. I've heard people use that as a negative, saying, "Oh, it's just a remake." But if you're first, if it is, it's a remake of one of the most wonderful video games I've ever played. And second, it takes what few things about Ocarina annoyed me and smooths most of those out, makes it even more beautiful, adds some wonderful new touches. I really do believe this is the pinnacle of the Zelda series.
Best intros, too.
Yeah, I love that.
Very haunting. Somber. I loved it.
The game kind of has that feel. I mean, it's not a dark game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a somber
probably the
game.
darkest besides Majora's Mask, like the undertones of that one.
Yeah.
Probably the next darkest, the most gritty feeling. I hate to use that word, offhandedly, but
it's still a colorful, vibrant place that's fun to explore, and you run into
when it's not covered in twilight.
Exactly. But there's you've got like the weird like dark Tron moments, but you've also got Goron sumo wrestlers.
Look at this place. Look how nice this looks, too.
Yeah, they did a good job with it. And again, we're looking at pre-HD technology here for Nintendo. This was originally designed as a GameCube game. We're actually playing the GameCube version.
This is very interesting. Did you play the GameCube or the Wii version?
I played the Wii version. It was
Me
the
too.
first game I had for my Wii.
Yeah, I got there at Target at 5 a.m. to get my Wii, and I was freaking out because I didn't see it. We ran to the shelves, and then someone put it down. I'm like, whoa, snatched.
Done.
So happy.
Was yours a launch day Wii then?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Launch day Wii.
Oh, wow.
It was actually funny because that very day I had to go on a family trip, but I was like, no, I'm going to Target to buy my Wii, and we can go wherever we want after that. I don't care as long as I know that I have it.
Christmas morning, I found a copy of The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess and a Wii remote. Under my Christmas tree, and no Wii, because there were no Wiis at that point. But only a day later, I stumbled into a Target at about 4 in the morning, and I was just hitting up every store I could when I thought the trucks were coming in. And sure as the world, I came in as a delivery was being made, managed to pick one up, and I pretty much didn't work for the next week. I just sat down and played this. So there's enough anecdotes there. Here we're seeing a kind of a shadowy Midna. What makes this special, Brennan?
Well, it's true you say that you bought the Wii and I bought the Wii too. Like you said, this is made for the GameCube and the Wii simultaneously, and I'm kind of weirded out because the game was actually mirrored for the GameCube version because Link's always been left-handed.
Yeah.
But most players are right-handed majority, right pride. So they had to flip the entire world to kind of keep that aesthetic going. And it was a very
for the waggle controls on the Wii, right?
Yeah.
And they're good waggle controls, by the way. I don't want that to sound derivative. Actually,
Yeah, I know.
the
A lot of
controls on the Wii are really good.
A lot of people were kind of mad, like, oh, Nintendo's all about that waggle. But I love swords. I'll get that out of the way. I collect swords. I'm a big sword fan.
Ooh.
So being able to actually swing a sword with my Wii remote and have it transfer, only, the slight right, left, and down and up, whatever.
Yeah.
Just the basic. But even that was the coolest thing ever for me. And being able to, when he did, the finisher attack where he would jump and stab the enemy, I would go all into it. You could sit down and just on the couch and waggle off. And no, I was into this game.
You were into that. You were ready to hack some moblins up.
Seriously.
You were ready to make this
This
happen.
is what I've been waiting for the longest time in my life. I'm like, finally, Nintendo, give me the sword in my hand.
Yep. And I agree with you there. I would get enthusiastic also. I also enjoyed the ability to do things like throw my shield up for a shield bash, and you just really get into the motion of the thing. There's the famous Z targeting mechanic that Nintendo pioneered for their early 3D games.
So weird to play on the GameCube.
Yeah, it really is strange to see it this way. Although it looks lovely. I mean, I'm really struck by how good a job they did with it. And the GameCube was a very capable console. I think people it had less dissemination than some of its contemporaries, but I think people forget that it was actually technically a much more powerful at a base level than the PlayStation 2 for most video game applications.
I also want to say this is probably my favorite iteration of Hyrule Field. If not for the scope, it's for the music.
Oh,
I loved how immense and epic it felt. Just walking out, as you were on foot, you had this like really kind of like charming music,
Yeah.
and then the second you got on your horse, everything swelled up, and there's
I-
this huge crescendo of like they got the importance of galloping and stuff. Like, have you ever listened to the 25th anniversary soundtrack of this?
Yes, I have.
That Hyrule Field segment it made my tears in my eyes.
Oh, this game reduced me to tears on more than one occasion, and also to just like a gaping mouth. There were a
You
couple
said
of
this
moments
was your favorite Zelda game of all time.
Well, okay, I want to be clear here. I think this is the best Zelda game of them. All right.
The best Zelda
My
game. Okay.
favorite Zelda game is not the best. My favorite Zelda game is Zelda 2.
I see.
By a long shot.
Fish.
And that's because I have a special relationship with that game going all the way back to childhood, and I appreciate that wonderful side-scrolling combat mechanic that comes in that game. I think it's terribly underrated. However, I do believe if you're taking the merits of design and what went into the world, the story, the feel of the game, the artistic aesthetic, I really do think this is the strongest Zelda. And that's hyperbole, I realize, but without taking 15 minutes to explain why. I think there's the perfect combination of puzzles, things to do, beautiful art, wonderful music, superb control, a story that I care about, characters that I'm interested in, wonderful villains. I just feel like they hit it right on all cylinders here. Now, again, I realize that Wind Waker is also high in the running for best Zelda, and I'm not going to besmirch anybody who's going to argue for that. I do think this is a superior game to Ocarina just because I don't have to do annoying things in the water temple anymore.
Not a fan of every time you pick up a new ruby. It's like, hey, let's look at this for a while.
Yeah, let's look at. Well, I sometimes stare at $5 bills like that when I pull them out. I'm just like, where did you come from? I haven't had this much money in ages.
I did have a little bit of gripes with the way the game started out. A little too slow for my liking, and having to. The Twilight realms weren't as great as I wanted them to be.
You don't like 3-hour tutorials?
I also don't like collecting little like bugs in my sacred jar of beetle light vial things.
Now I will have
it wasn't the greatest thing, but the Dark World and Link to the Past was one of my favorite interpretations of a Zelda universe. So I was happy they kind of brought that back to some degree.
Yeah.
And the music was very creepy.
Yeah, and I love the contrast that they created between the kind of dirty, grimy, colorful feel of the naturalistic world, and then when you get to this version of the Dark World, it's very angular. Like I said, almost like some kind of like Dark Tron world.
Yeah.
And I like that they created that sort of aesthetic switch off. Also in this game, we haven't even brought this up yet, but you get to be a freaking wolf.
Yes, you do.
That's cool by me. The wolf's a lot of fun to play as, and I kind of feel like your reason for becoming a wolf in this game is, well, it's really cool to be a freaking wolf, so we're going to work it into the story, and I'm completely fine with that. I'm great with that. I also like that you're taught special sword maneuvers by a ghost wolf thing and it's never particularly explained.
I love how the people have kind of lashed onto that, thinking like the mannerisms of the skeletal warrior, the way he holds his sword, the way he talks to like some clues in the songs that you kind of use to talk to him.
Yeah.
Like people think, wait, could this be the Link from Ocarina of Time who got lost in the Lost Woods and turned to a Staphos?
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool fan theory.
Oh, I love that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I don't think did they ever confirm that in Hyrule Historia? I don't remember. They kind of
Not that I'm aware of.
They might have teased at it, but it's a very interesting theory as well because it's a different interpretation of Link, but he has roots back to the Ocarina of Time version of the game.
Well, the relationship between the Legend of Zelda games has always been kind of dicey, whether it's the same legend being retold over and over, whether it's a timeline and a continuity. I think people interpret that different ways, and I like the fact that Nintendo's allowed us the openness to do that. I enjoy games where the mythology isn't always cut and dry. I mean, I love rich mythology. Tolkien's works are great for that. But I also like a game like Dark Souls 2 or something, or Dark Souls, where they're just kind of like, well, figure it out and infer what you want from what's going on around you. And Zelda gives you a lot of that too, and I like that.
Do you have a favorite memory of this game?
Of this game?
Yeah.
I think that one of the best moment for me in this, hands down, was the Fever Dream. Where you've got all
that was creepy.
I love that. I was just like, I haven't experienced anything like this in a Zelda game ever. Now I'm about to get myself in trouble with at least 15% of our audience pointing out that while Majora's Mask is a wonderful game, it's far from my favorite. But for all the creepy vibe of Majora's Mask, that Fever Dream with the dark links and the upside down falling, I was just like,
creepy Ilya trying to stab you with a dagger.
Yeah, and again, it didn't feel
Whoa.
out of place though. Sometimes games are like, we're being dark for the sake of
No,
being
this is just like
dark.
you know the magic that you're screwing with is really bad. Like,
Yeah.
this whole like Twilight realm, the mask and everything, like that's bad news.
And they only had to pull that out here one time in the game.
And there was
And
no
then you never
you know there's no spoken dialogue.
Yeah.
Like people always sometimes get mad about Link never talks and there's no there's like little grunts and whatever, but there's not a lot in this game. But that was a perfect sequence without having to talk you to death. Without that, you just saw it and you just knew that this was really different. I forgot to get through here. I'm being stupid right now.
Oh, okay.
Did I go to town? I forget.
Yeah, I think you have to go around a different way here. What about you? What's your of course you have to go around it. What's your favorite moment? What's something that stood out for you?
My favorite moment is not actually playing the game; it was watching the game.
Oh.
While I did enjoy the game immensely and have very good memories about the game, it wasn't till I want to say a couple years after in college that I was getting into the wild world of live streaming when it first started out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for places to watch. I found some adventure game stuff. And then out of the blue, I'm looking on boards and stuff, and I see someone advertising their stream as The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess breast cancer awareness stream featuring it was a modded version of the game that was a Link in an all-pink tunic that was incredibly bright. All he had was a wooden sword, iron boots that could not be removed, and a double hook shot that had an infinite distance and could latch onto anything.
That's beautiful. Somebody running this in Dolphin or
I don't know if it was Dolphin or not, but it was a modded version of the Wii version of the game.
Wow, okay.
So obviously my interest was piqued, and I went to go see, and the guy, right when I hear it there, oh boy, is this mailman.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was in the first temple and trying to hobble around in iron boots everywhere, with side hops, and trying to climb a really, really tall vine full of Skulltulas, and he would not attack them. He tried to get around them, would not use the hook shots unless it was absolutely necessary. He punished himself. I don't know if you have ever... Do you remember the Dark Nuts in this game?
Yeah.
How brutal they were.
Yeah.
Try fighting them with 3 hearts,
and iron boots.
Wooden sword, and iron boots. It became the most epic thing I'd ever watched. And I was
How long
hooked.
did you watch him?
Hours, days, every Saturday. It was the same thing. And then I would race home from work when I heard that they were at the final battle with Ganondorf, and that battle got even crazier when he was just hopping and he had half a heart left. I was like, come on, you can do it. No. He finally beats them. And then they have that ending sequence where Link is running across the field to see if someone's still alive.
Yeah.
Seeing it done with iron boots and hearing clank, clank,
clank,
clank, clank, clank, clank, clank, clank,
clank. Oh, that must have been wonderful.
It was the funniest thing. And so that made me stick around to that streaming site because I loved how the game could be played in such a way. And a couple of years later, I'm now streaming at that website too, and it's amazing.
And you do charity streams now where you put yourself through horrible things, right?
Yeah,
That's
and we actually modeled a charity stream based off of that run.
Off of that one. You mentioned that final battle. Did that grab you as much as it did me? That very final phase of the final battle.
That final phase.
Where
I was exhausted. I'd been playing for a while. I was exhausted. I kind of was sitting on a chair. I got back up.
Yeah.
I got in a stance. I'm like, let's do this.
Yeah, folks, the game's, at this point, 8 years old. And I think I'm not going to screw things up too badly to tell you that after an epic boss sequence, your final encounter is just 2 drawn swords in an empty field.
Yeah,
it's
and
one of the best
I love
things
the
ever.
lead up, how it started with, Zelda,
yeah.
and it went to Beast Ganon, and then Ganon on the horseback in a huge field, and then one-on-one sword duel.
In the end, it's just you, him, a sword, in an open field. It's one of the most satisfying fights.
Yeah.
Just the clash of steel there at the end. I love it. I think it's great.
So be sure to share with us your favorite memories of Twilight Princess. It doesn't be your favorite game, but I believe this game has something for everybody in it.
Yeah.
And be sure to check back all this month because we are doing even more of 125 Let's Plays for Nintendo.
Yep.
So for everything else, Zelda and Nintendo and IGN, you just keep it here.
All right, bye, guys.